and welcome to Dominator TV, the no bullshit guide to real estate buying, selling, and investing. I'm your host, Dave the Dominator. Before we dive in, remember to share Dominator TV with someone who could use the info today. I truly appreciate the support. Go ahead and subscribe so we can start connecting right away. We have before us a task that looms over every buyer's mind, a task that keeps agents up at night, and a task that can single-handedly change your life or offer supreme insult. You guessed it, we're about to write an offer. Episode 4 is going to outline this fourth step of the home buying process. Not only are we going to define the terms that make up an offer, we are going to talk about mitigating our risks. Let's go. So you've found Mr. Right. Or at least the house version of Mr. Right. You know you're ready to put a ring on it and lock this property down before it's gone. With some properties, you don't have to worry about competition being thick. But with many, especially your correctly priced properties, you'll quickly find yourself in the midst of a competition. It's free game until someone locks in the sale and you just never know who's lurking out there ready to take a shot at your house. So if you're just submitting an offer, why does it have to be in writing? Submitting an offer is literally filling out a sales agreement with the terms you want. If the seller accepts, you get it. It's important to submit a written offer for 3 major reasons. 1, it keeps a clear paper trail and offers clear communication that verbal offers can distort. 2, it makes it easier for the seller to accept or counter while it's fresh on their mind, rather than tell you one thing and then do the other. They know that all they have to do is sign it and the process is underway. 3, verbal agreements don't mean much of anything in the real estate world. Let's say that you placed a verbal offer with the seller. The seller accepts. They tell you that they'll accept, but then they go home and they think some more and they decide that they want more money. Worse than that, other buyers have the opportunity to come along and offer more in the meantime, which only makes everyone's life harder, except the sellers. All of this isn't to suggest that verbal offers don't happen. They absolutely do when the clients insist, but they mean nothing if they aren't immediately backed up in writing. The bottom line is that the best way to put up or shut up is to put it on paper. Hold up, though. Here in the Dominator's Corner, we don't like to rush into things. Before we sit down and put ink to paper, I want you to go over some of the details it takes to put this together. In the event the seller accepts your offer, you're obligated to its terms, and understanding those through and through is key. Would you believe that some buyers don't even know what they're signing? Granted, it would take a full-on class to go over every document and agreement, so we will stick with the general terms that have the most impact. For now, at least. Purchase price. Duh, you've got to start with the basics. More importantly than just the value of the property, you need to consider 2 things here. 1, have you reviewed your monthly payment and amounts at this price and understand how much your cash to close will be? 2, have you and your agent reviewed comparable properties to make sure your value is justified? I want you to get the best deal possible, but constructing an offer is more of a strategy. Risking coming in too low and insulting the seller will have you miss your ultimate opportunity, which may still be under asking price. When factoring value, consider paying full price if there are other buyers making offers on the same house. If it's a great deal and you know that it will be hard to recreate, it may be worth it to go ahead and make the move. On the other hand, you don't want your offer to be too high. Your agent can do what's called a comparative market analysis to come up with the best value. Also know that in most cases, you have the opportunity to make your offer contingent on an appraisal, meaning that you literally cannot overpay. We call that safety in real estate. Loan type. Of course, you will need to disclose the type of mortgage you're applying for so the seller can understand what that loan might entail. Don't worry, if you have to change it later or the lender finds a better option for you, it is possible to switch gears. Property description. This is largely up to your agent to fill in, as much of it will be legal jargon that might not make much sense, like the deed book and page number, parcel ID, and legal description. What will make sense here is making sure that any items that you want to remain with the house that aren't already attached are written into the offer. In Tennessee, there's a long list of items that are considered to be part of a home or piece of real property. This includes any permanent structures on foundations, attached light fixtures, bulbs, mailboxes, all window treatments, built-in appliances, and much more. Anything else that you would like has to be written in. Appliances that are not built in, like the refrigerator or the washing machine, need to be written in order to be sold with the property. make sure you know what your state's contract says. The agreement will give you the opportunity to make the transaction contingent upon your ability to get financing, your approval of inspection results, and the appraised value of the property equaling or exceeding the purchase price. Contingent means that in order for the contract to be binding, those have to be met. So if, for example, you're not happy with the financing results, you have a way out of the contract with your earnest money back. We'll talk about earnest money later. The offer will outline who pays what in closing costs, title expenses, prepaids, and other expenses, as well as a place where you can modify these terms. You will select the title company or closing attorney of your choice to perform the title search, prepare the deed, and go through the actual closing process with you. In some states, this has to be an attorney, and in others, it can be a title company. Oftentimes, they perform both functions. The agent often has a title company they prefer, but it is your discretion to use who you are comfortable with. Feel free to price check and compare companies before you write that offer. Earnest money is a negotiable term that not everyone understands. Earnest money or trust money is a good faith deposit that the buyer makes within so many days of having an accepted offer. It is held in a non-interest bearing account, and there's a safety to protect the seller's time and is there as a safety to protect the seller's time and diligence in the event the buyer is in default. The buyer usually gets the earnest money back if they act in good faith and terminate the agreement because of one of their contingencies, like financing, inspections, or appraisals. Earnest money is negotiable in whether or not it will be required and how much it will be, who will hold it, etc. You will indicate a closing date that works for you at the time of making an offer. Keep in mind that most financing companies are going to need at least 30 days to process a closing. Cash sales can happen faster depending on how quickly the title company can work. Be sure to give plenty of time for your situation. In the event you can't close in time, the closing date can be changed via amendment to the agreement if both parties agree, so no pressure. The offer will indicate whether or not a lead-based paint disclosure is required and offer the buyer an opportunity to conduct a risk assessment if they would like. Lead-based paint is a hazard to homes built prior to 1978. The sellers are usually required to tell you if they know of the presence of any. This is a crucial aspect of any agreement and needs to be decided upon, as it can be a risk to health and safety if ingested. This being said, I have not personally experienced a situation where the seller said that they were aware of the presence of lead-based paint, and I've only had one customer choose to make their offer contingent upon the results of a risk assessment, which they did not perform. That being said, it is your right as a buyer, and it does have to be a decision that is made and disclosed. The offer will allow you to set time frames on your inspection and resolution periods. It will define literally everything involved with a sale. The agreement will have a disclaimer built in to talk about different types of agency and the responsibilities of all parties to cooperate. It will give customers the opportunity to ask the seller to pay for a home warranty if they wish, and provide a special stipulation section of the agreement to modify any of the terms. Each offer is time sensitive, and the buyer usually gets to establish how much time can pass before the seller responds. In the event the seller doesn't accept, counter, or reject within the time period allowed, the offer terminates immediately and is no longer valid. The purchase agreement will cover much more than what I listed, but those are the major terms that will be discussed and are important for you to know prior to writing the offer. When an offer is signed, it is common for the agency or agent to have the other forms that need your attention as well. These could include some of the following: a property condition disclosure that is designed to give sellers the opportunity to report any defects or issues they know of if they are required to. A confirmation of agency form lets each party know the other side's agency relationships with their professional. In the event an agent is facilitating the whole transaction, this form may indicate such. If a lead-based paint is a possibility, you may have to indicate whether or not you want a risk assessment, as we discussed previously, via an amendment that goes along with the purchase agreement. This is the same form that would require a buyer to indicate whether or not they wanted a risk assessment and to confirm that they understand the possible risk. Many agents have company policies and disclaimers that they will ask you to sign. For the most part, they are standard CYA and keep the public informed practices, but you should take your own diligence in reading through them and consulting your attorney if you have questions about how they are written. The goal of having you to sign all of these documents, known as the associated documents in the industry, is to give the buyer the opportunity to review everything that is pertinent at the time for their own time efficiency and full understanding of the process before they embark. On the seller side, it usually starts with the same associated documents signed in concert with the listing agreement, and then you get those exact same documents whenever you end up writing an offer. You are not alone. Do I expect you to remember every piece of placing an offer on the property? Heck no. That is the job of the professional. My goal is to highlight some things that go into this process so that you may better understand it for yourself. Putting the work in earlier to make it easier for the seller to accept the offer may be just what gets you the value you want. As far as negotiating terms goes, asking your agent to ask the seller's agent what aspects are most important to the seller will give you a negotiating edge that you wouldn't have had. That's definitely a pro trick and is another example of a pro asking the questions nobody else wants to. Before I let you go, please remember in this episode that if you don't in any other, that each state has its own laws and requirements. Each transaction has its own needs, and I am not an attorney, nor am I legally qualified to tell you everything that you're going to have to sign and exactly what it means. For location-specific or situation-specific questions, reach out to me and I'll help you do the research. For legal advice pertaining to any of the information given in this episode or its implications on your transaction, please consult an attorney and do your own due diligence. I am simply here to help you understand this process a little bit better. As always, you deserve a groundbreaking service in this industry. I hope you understand a little bit more about placing an offer after today, and we'll dig into negotiations very shortly. Thank you for watching Dominator TV. Remember to follow me on all the social platforms you can. A link to each will be in the comments section. Subscribe! If you need immediate assistance or have a real estate question, please contact me directly. Dominator TV is created, hosted, and edited by Dave the Dominator Sanders. Each Coldwell Banker office is independently owned and operated.